And it's late February, so what better than a Ross Dellenger report, Yahoo Sports. Sources, SEC Big Ten building momentum to further expand college football playoff to 14 or 16 teams. There is going to be meetings this week that will lead to this. The SEC and Big Ten athletic directors are meeting Wednesday in New Orleans. And then, so we're heading in the direction of where they can assert some control, and they are trying to move the ball forward, not for next season. We will still have the 12-team playoff for the 2025 season. It'll obviously run into 2026. But the following year, the likelihood is we will expand to 14 or 16 teams. And along with that, we'll go to multiple automatic qualifiers per each team.
Conference.
Per conference. Sorry. 4 automatic bids for the SEC and Big Ten, 2 for the ACC and the Big 12, 1 for the best team from the group of 5, and 1 extra spot that could go at large, which could be Notre Dame or could be anybody else. That is where we're headed. Ross, how much headway is this going to occur this week, do you think, on it?
Yeah, probably pretty significant, I think. It's not coincidental that a week after the SEC and Big Ten have their joint meetings, the CFP Management Committee meets in Dallas, where the top main topic will be the college football format. A week before that meeting, you have the SEC and Big Ten meeting in New Orleans, joint meeting with ADs to, I think, really discuss among the two leagues what they want to propose or recommend at the CFP meeting in Dallas a week later. And momentum, we've talked about this, certainly this format a lot on the show. It came up as far back as last March, I believe, is a multiple automatic qualifier format for of a 14-team kind of model. And that would be 4 AQs for the SEC and Big Ten each, 2 for the ACC and Big 12, 1 for the group of 5, and 1 at large that would be designated for Notre Dame if they finish in the top 14 of the rankings, according to a memorandum of understanding among the CFP that was signed last spring. So, and part of that memorandum of understanding, as we talked about on the show before, is that the SEC and Big Ten do control the format starting in 2026 in the 6-year agreement, and it's more clear. That's more clear, I think, than ever. I don't have the memorandum of understanding, but there have been portions of it by multiple people that have been read to me, and basically, they have to make meaningful consultation with the other leagues, but they make the decision. And right now, their decision, which could be finalized this week in their joint meeting, is probably headed toward an expanded playoff with multiple AQs per league.
Yeah. You want to know how I feel about this? I think I said it last year. If anything, I'm only more entrenched that this is terrible. This is further greed. This is unchecked power mongering. There's no leadership. There's no leaders. We don't have any leaders. We have strongmen and grifters. That's all we got. We have strongmen and grifters who are running college athletics. They don't give a damn about the whole. They don't give a damn about any other sports. All they want is more money and more control for the things for the top people. That's what the SEC and the Big Ten want most of all. And the ACC and the Big 12 are willing to go along with it because they're going to get 2 bids out of this. And everybody's scared to death that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to go off and do their own thing, to which, again, I say, dare them. Dare them to do it, because if they really want to go down as the worst people in the history of college sports, that's where they're headed. This is far enough. This is far enough that you are shoving stuff so far down people's throats that nobody is sitting there clamoring to say, God, the playoff was no good. We need more teams and we need more automatic bids for the people that already have all the advantages. Is anybody out there saying that? That maybe it's the same people that won a 76 team basketball tournament. Where are they? We're going to end up with that. They're going to shove that down our throat too. That's coming. It's great. College athletics is run by wonderful people. My basement also flooded today, so I'm a little bit irritable.
Good job.
Well,
good luck following that there, Wetzel.
Well, Mr. Forde, it raises a salient point, though. Who the hell wants this? Other than a couple commissioners? Or, was there anyone out there saying...
Well, there's plenty of ADs that want it.
Okay, people that are making bonuses off of getting into the playoff, other than people with a direct personal financial advantage, who wants this? Are fans clamoring and saying we didn't get enough teams in? Like, yeah, I get it. Every year you're gonna have somebody. This year is Alabama. We should have been in. We should have been in. We should have been in. Okay, whatever. Like, you didn't get in. You also lost to 2 6-6 teams. Like, it's your story is not all that compelling. Oh, we were better than Indiana. Indiana played one. Okay. Well, they lost to Ohio State and Notre Dame, 2 best teams. But that's a feature of a playoff. That's a feature of a playoff. Nobody's sitting there saying, gosh, if we only had more teams. The first round wasn't all that competitive. It's the same way in the NFL. The first round's just sort of, it's just to make a little money, sort a few things out. Maybe 1 or 2 of the teams deserve to be in. Some of the other ones don't. Whatever. Nobody's asking for ESPN isn't asking for it, is it? They're not, right?
No.
Where are you going to put the game? Why you're going?
2 games, 2 extra games. With
2
the
extra
14,
games.
4 extra games with the 16.
So you got to go Thursday night, 2 on Friday.
You probably stagger. Yeah, you probably stagger more, and you compete against
1
the
on
NFL
Thursday,
more.
2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like, where do you?
In the Thursday one competes against the NFL, and the Saturday ones, as they do now, compete against the NFL too.
And a Friday one's got to be doubleheader Friday. And,
yeah, you have to go Thursday, 2 Friday, 3 Saturday, if I'm guessing.
Okay, like, who's asking for this? Who does it benefit? Like, I forget the personalized. I got $100,000 bonus if my team makes the playoff. That, like, who does it really benefit? Is there? We're 1 year in and it didn't? No one was like, boy, there was so much competitiveness in that first round. We got to expand it. There's not a real good TV window for it. The ratings for the first round weren't extraordinary. And for years and years, we're going to devalue now it's good. Compete for 4th place. Congratulations, you came in 4th. Like, okay. Like, where's the good part? More football, 2 more football games. I'm not opposed to that, but I'm trying to be Pat. My basement did not flood today, so I'm trying to be the optimistic one. Where's the good part of this?
Yes. Okay, that's a good question.
What's the positive?
Those who support it, outside of just granting their leagues, obviously there's plenty of people in the SEC and Big Ten that support this, and outside of this gives them a better, access and potentially more money, although the money is about the same because
they combined to get 7 teams in. They combined to get 7. Now they get 8.
Outside of all that, the number one thing that supporters will bring up is the diminished role of the selection committee, the subjective diminished role of the selection committee, basically just having them seed and having the actual games on the field and the standings, just like the NFL, guaranteeing certain access. That's how you would. So that's one, as you
okay.
You
so
hear
okay,
say.
Hold on. This is what they say. This is Petiti, right?
This is a lot of people.
Okay, a lot of people.
Yeah.
The diminished role of what did they do wrong?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah,
what they do wrong?
It's a great question. It's a great question. I think in general, the subjectivity of the committee is something that certain people, want to get rid of.
Why?
Want to do it more like the NFL. where games on the field and standings matter.
If
But
32
really-
teams and a 17-game season, it's doesn't.
But really, this opens the door, as I wrote in that story, right, Sunday night, it opens the door for some other things to happen with those two leagues.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. But what's wrong with the committee?
I just
They just
I
are
don't know that
saying it.
anything's
Like they're just
wrong.
saying
Yeah.
it. They just don't like it.
I think that limiting the decisions and the subjectivity of a committee and replacing that with, hey, this team finished third, so it's got an automatic bid, or second, so it's got an automatic bid. So you have more automatic bids and less at-large subjective type of picks.
But they don't go any further than that on this argument because you're just saying, like, I'm not blaming you. You're in a bad position.
Yeah.
You're trying
Well,
to
I think
repeat.
the other things is
But-
what we could get to later, right? It's what it sets up for the two leagues,
Which is what?
which is one, them to play each other in a scheduling partnership.
And to further
future.
rig things in their favor, because the strength of schedule will continue.
But they're
to
already
tilt
getting
towards
4
them.
teams in each way. There's no.
And two, for the SEC to play 9 games finally.
Well, this is an internal thing. The committee is like a punching bag.
It's unbelievable.
It is.
Like,
They have made a straw man out of a committee that I don't think did anything wrong. There was some, week to week, like, what are they doing? But that's their own fault for
Get
having
rid
a
of the
TV
week to
show.
week. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Which
got
I
to get rid
said,
of that.
Alabama
Right.
didn't get a fair shake because of the weekly rankings,
Yeah.
which
get
they
rid of that.
wanted to promote and excite and hype off the subjectivity of the committee. I don't think they made a bad mistake, especially as you watched Indiana, but you could certainly have made the case. Indiana, Alabama. The problem was Indiana was up too high in the weekly rankings, and you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Drop
They
them.
were blocked. SMU, you couldn't drop them too far. They said all the data's in. Ward Manuel said it. The committee's rankings each week were the problem, not the committee. Nobody finishing third in the SEC or the Big Ten is going to miss a 12-team playoff.
Right.
Fourth, probably not.
That's what happened. Well, one this year, right? Alabama.
One. Okay. And maybe it should have been Alabama instead of, but that's it. That's it.
Well,
So
and
let's-
I crunched some numbers here, Dan, too. So if you look at the CFP committee's rankings, penultimate rankings, right? So before the conference championship games over the last 11 years, the CFP era, the SEC leads all teams with 52 in the top 14 of the rankings, 4.7 teams a year they would have in the top 4. Big 10 is 4.6. Big 12 is 2.1 teams in the top 14. ACC is 1.8. And then you have the group of 5, which is about one out of every 3 years they had a team in the top 14. And
They're
then
gonna
Notre Dame
benefit.
they're going to benefit. And in Notre Dame, every other year finished in the top 14 ranked. So that's kind of how the figures would go if you look back at the last 11 years.
But that's counting Oklahoma and Texas playing
That's
Big 12.
Considering realignment,
Oregon,
which
so it really doesn't work.
it doesn't really work. Yeah, I mean it probably inflates the numbers for sure for the SEC and Big Ten. So they're about 4.5 right now, 4.5 teams a year. They probably would be more like 4. If you kind of just
Right,
the
they have
way
to play
things
a real
would fall.
right.
Yeah,
Oklahoma's not
the
going
way
6
things
and
would fall.
6 if they weren't in the SEC this year. I'm still still baffled that where are they even they're just making a fake argument and then just moving on.
Seems to be.
Like I
And
get
the other thing,
Go ahead.
the other reason to rig the strength of schedule in your favor is so that you're 4 and therefore get the top 8 seeds, and you shove down further the ACC and Big 12 2 and the group of 5 and Notre Dame. You play each other. The SEC goes to 9 games, but then you play that cross-conference game against each other, and that's a 10th game. You're just this is a cartel at work to help itself here.
Oh, I used to call it the cartel. Boy, they hated that.
Well, he's
Back.
back.
I can't blame the scheduling thing. They can do. Okay, that's fine. They want to do
They
that.
already play each
I
other
know,
a fair
but
amount anyway.
there is no at-large bid. There's one at-large bid left, and Notre Dame could grab it every year. So all
Yeah,
they're doing,
basically.
the only thing that matters, non-conference games don't matter. I guess you could have the seeding, yes, but it's just about finishing top 4 in your conference. That's it. Like, that's all that matters is the conference race. You could lose all of your non-conference games and go, 7-2 in your league, and you could be 0-3 in the, or 0 and whatever you got, 0-3 in the non-conference, go 7-2 in your league, and you're in. That's that doesn't. Is that what we want? A 7-5 team? Because that's what you could easily get. I mean, they're not going to lose all 3 because they're going to play Cupcake U, but
yeah,
I'm not really gathering that. I just reject the notion that we have to. This sounds great, right? Let's remove the subjectivity out. It sounds good, but it's like democracy. It's a terribly broken system, except for all the other systems.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I mean,
okay.
And again, like college athletics has worked with selection committees on its championships in many of its sports for decades. And you don't see people sitting there saying, oh my God, this is terrible. You don't, except for in football. And granted, yes, it's a smaller pool of playoff teams, but it's unbelievable. You're telling Ward Manuel and, whoever else was on this year's committee, you're too stupid to do this. You can't do it. So we're taking that away from you. You're not smart enough to handle this. So we're just going to strong arm everybody and do it the way we want to do it.
Or go the hockey route with pairwise. I've said this on, I know there's not that many hockey fans, college hockey fans out there, but there are teams that, like Ohio State's number 6 in the country. Like, they also happen to have a football team. Maybe we're aware of it. Everyone's fine in hockey. Now there's fewer teams and they play more games. So maybe it works better statistically, but they have a computer system called Pairwise that sets the NCAA hockey tournament. And when you win a game, all the fans immediately calculate the pairwise to see how they moved. I can tell you, on Friday night, UMass beat Boston College, which is number 1, and UMass moved up 3 spots. The next night, Boston College housed UMass, and they moved back down 2 spots. But that was part of that's part of the equation of, we won. How high are we going? Oh no, we lost. How low are we going? That everyone just goes with the pairwise. There's no committee, or there's a committee to make sure, I don't know, whatever they do, but everyone's fine with the system. So go that route if you don't need subjective. If you hate subjectivity so much. I reject the notion that this subjectivity thing is bad. Get rid of your weekly rankings. That would be the best move you have. But instead, we're going to expand the playoff, dramatically change the way the regular season of this sport is played to where conference race is the only determining factor. We no longer care whether you lose all of your non-conference games, as long as you finish top 4 in the. Is it the top 4 in the conference race, or is
it depends? Well, that's a whole that opens up a whole
massively
question of
altering how this sport is getting done, because somebody's got all upset because Alabama didn't get in. This is ridiculous. This is dumb. If you got a good point, call me and tell me what the hell it is, but I don't see it.
What 4? How will they determine what 4, and maybe in the ACC and Big 12, what 2 go to the CFP, and that's for each league potentially to determine themselves. And as we've discussed on the show before, right, there's a possibility that you could have a remade, conference championship type weekend with more games, play-in style tournaments, kind of like in basketball, kind of like the conference tournaments in basketball. You'd have a sort of a mini conference tournament in football. And again, it's probably not a surprise that those are new games, which means new money. So you would have, your 3 seed, say, let's just take the example of the SEC and the Big Ten. Your 1 and 2 seed, maybe you let them play for the championship, and then they both go to the CFP, and your 3 plays your 6 seed, and your 4 plays your 5 seed in a play-in game, and the winner goes to the
conference
CFP.
Championship game is just pointless.
Only to go by, it's just one of the 2 buys, maybe. But you're right. This would devalue
guess
the
you
conference
get the
championship
bye.
game enough to where I think some leagues have discussed, just you wipe it out altogether.
And just have your 3 and 6 play and your 4 and 5 play.
Or if you're in the ACC Big 12, do you have your 1 player 4 or 2 player 3?
I mean, this is a massive alteration of the sport.
Huge.
They are barreling into something completely blindly. I mean, not blindly, but they are changing. This is a massive, unrecognizable move on how the sport is competed on a week in, week out basis.
It's a move toward more professional, right? It's a clear move toward.
Not really.
Yeah, except it's
that sounds good. That's not what this is.
It's a tilted playing field. That's professional.
I mean, nobody in the NFL's like, we'll just want to come in fourth in our
Well, a division in the
small
NFL.
divisions, though.
Well, right, but a division, a specific division in the NFL doesn't get more AQs than another division.
Right.
And that's the difference here.
Yeah.
This would change the way the sport is played. You could go into that final week with basically a 20, if I'm doing the numbers right, basically it's a 22 team playoff now. Because you'd have 6 and 5 still in it, 6 and 5. Yeah, I think you'd add up. You'd get there.
Yeah, so 12.
Yeah, whatever the numbers. It's about 22 team playoff. I just, to me, this is if all you got to do is finish in the top 6 in your league, you've just completely altered how college football should be played. And you could lose all your non-conference games and just finish top 6. What's top 6 in most of these leagues?
Well, I'm looking right now. Guess what we would have had if say the Big Ten took its top 2 teams, exempted them, and played 3 against 6 and 4 against 5. You would have the loser of a tiebreaker between Indiana and Penn State as your 3 seed playing the 6-seeded Iowa Hawkeyes. There's a team that we really would have liked to see get a chance to play in the playoff. You'd have 4-seed Ohio State have to waste time, bodies, and energy playing Illinois, which had a good season for Illinois, but nobody wanted to see them in a playoff.
Well, Brett B did.
Yeah,
he was trying to claim.
The coaches want this too. Yeah,
of course the coaches do. They want everybody in. The basketball, basketball tournament.
Yes.
Every team at the end of the regular season, every single team in college basketball. There's a few leagues that are too big now and you can't get into your conference, like even the Big Ten. But virtually every team, 360 teams, still have a chance to win the national championship. Because they can win their conference championship, get in, maybe it's a 16 seed, but whatever, you still got a chance. And then win 6 games, 7 games, and you win the national title. Everybody is in they go, we need to we need to add another round. You already have an entire week that is a round.
Yes.
And despite the fact that every single team in college basketball has a chance to play into the games on like March 8th, they sit there and go, we still need to make it bigger. Like how much can you make it bigger? Like the coaches are the worst people to listen to.
They are. No. But then the ADs, I mean, everybody, the coaches are all screaming for it for job security and bonuses. The ADs are just grubbing for money. The commissioners are grubbing right there along with them. Here's what we would have had if we tried to go top 6 or 3 against 6 and 4 against 5 in the SEC. We would have had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-way tie for 4th.
Oh, boy. Talk about
good luck
subjective.
Figuring that out. There might be some subjectivity involved in deciding who's 4, 5, and 6.
That would be wild. Draw out of a hat a live television show.
5-3 Alabama, 5-3 LSU, 5-3 South Carolina, 5-3 Texas A&M, 5-3 Mississippi, 5-3 Missouri.
I'd go with. You really want the 8-5 Iowa Hawkeye? Like that's who we're trying to get. I mean,
keep in mind they would play conceivably. They play a 9th game here, so you probably wouldn't have as much propensity for tying, but there would be some ties. There ain't no doubt about that.
And the other thing, because you're playing such wildly disparate, different schedules, because your leagues are too big.
Right.
Good luck breaking the ties. You're going to have some people that just get lucky and play an easier schedule. That already exists, but it's far bigger chances for that now with a 16-team SEC and an 18-team Big Ten and a 17-team ACC.
So I propose the question that y'all are asking to several people, which is about the non-conference schedule. Why would you play big non-conference games now if now they really don't matter? And here is the answer. We would play more big non-conference games than ever because they don't matter.
I don't actually believe that.
So we'll get more money and they don't really matter. They won't impact our automatic qualification to the playoff. They could impact our seeding in the playoff, but that's the response.
I hope that's true.
But here's what I could predict is they still want home games. They want 7-8 home games. They're not going to be playing more big games where you have to go home and home. Everybody wants 7 or 8 home games, and that's why they want to play Presbyterian and Citadel and Louisiana Monroe.
Especially in late November. When now
I would envision
most every team going into a season, the SEC's got that tradition of playing a lot of the easy games before their rivalry game, right?
Yeah. In November.
It makes even more sense. Like in the NFL, when you get your bye is a big deal. It could be because they're obsessed with everything. Oh, I got a week 5 bye, and now I got to go all this week 9 bye. Okay, that's good. You would play more. I mean, it's possible you will get a few more brand on brand games. That's fine, but that's why you dramatically alter the way the sport is competed. This to me is a big. It's as big of a change as a playoff at all. Maybe more because it affects more teams. I don't know. I just to just roll into this is really kind of wild because it's like it's a different sport when the sport is, I guess, got to finish top 4.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And that, again, and Ross, you've got the numbers in the story. If you didn't have the automatic qualifiers, the SEC and the Big Ten would already get their share in there, right? They would get that number of schools in the playoff. This, again, you are rigging a system that you have the advantages, you have the money, you've got the best teams. Let it play out without having to codify even more advantages. That's what bothers me is, the Big Ten saying we have to have 4 and the SEC saying
Just
we have to have 4. And if we don't get it, we're leaving. Yeah.
Just earn them.
Just earn it.
And you guys remember last spring, I think, it leaked that the Big Ten proposed the 4-4-2-2-1 model. And then it was rejected. And so they put on the table the Big Ten, not necessarily the SEC, just the Big Ten, had thrown out there a discussion point of 3-3-2-2-1. And that also was rejected enough that they stopped talking about it and signed the memorandum of understanding for the new television deal extension that included revenue distribution changes, but not the format. And they put off the format. And here we are again. It's basically the same format has been brought up or will be brought up once again. In the Big 12 and ACC, look, I mean, it's in the story, right? There's not a lot of supporters for this that are in the Big 12 and the ACC. And their commissioners have been maybe a little subtle or maybe not very subtle in saying publicly that they don't agree with this, especially Jim Phillips of the
What's their opposition?
The
they get 2 in every year.
They get 2 in. I think Jim's think about it this year, Dan. So this year they were 6. They could have. Clemson wasn't ranked in the top 14. Remember, because they were, but they did win the championship.
Yeah.
So I mean, so this year the SEC had 6 in the top 14. Big Ten had 4. ACC had 2, 1 G5, and then Notre Dame in 0 Big 12. When you look at the numbers, the ACC again 1.8 a year, having 1.8 teams a year in the top 14 in the last 11, and the Big 12 2.1. It aligns with the 2, Dan, you mentioned. And so I think I wonder how much real pushback there's going to be. But this year, as we just talked about, the ACC was pretty close to having 3. in that top 14. And the one that was left out was their champion, Clemson, that was not in the top 14. So there's going to be an argument in the room for that. The ACC ADs and presidents met earlier this week, and this was a topic of discussion. And I think the room felt that the 3-3-2-2-1 model was more amenable than the 4-4-2-2-1 model, but I'm not so sure the Big Ten and SEC are at a point where they would accept the 3-3-2-2-1 model. That doesn't seem to be anything that would move the needle there for them.
Yeah.
One other.
I'm all for like changes. What's the problem?
Look, we've seen one iteration of the 12-team playoff, and now it's let's blow it up. Let's blow it up.
We got a problem. No, you don't.
Yeah, now right. Find the problem. Describe the problem.
This is what I said about NIL when they were saying the rich will get richer. It's a terrible problem. Look at basketball. Oh my God, this is the worst thing. Really? You preferred it when Nike and Adidas chose who got to be good? Because that's what used to happen. Take a look at the standings now. Whole bunch of quote unquote blue bloods ain't so good anymore. What a terrible system. I preferred it when Jim Gatto and the EBYL at Nike decided who got to be good. That was my preferred. I mean, what are we talking about? That wasn't a problem. Where's the problem? They could invent a problem there. Where is the problem? The nebulous concept of subjectivity? I mean, someone's got to make a call on Alabama, Indiana. That was it.
Yeah.
Take away the committee's ranking and you'll have a more honest debate. That's the way to solve whatever problem there is, which is a pretty damn small problem, by the way. But this is a complete alteration of how the game will be competed for, how it will be strategically, how you go into seasons, how you schedule, when you play games, whether or not you play hard every game, all sorts of different things. This will be a total change, a huge alteration over the problem being there is none. It's a solution in search of a problem.
A couple other things here. One, we haven't even talked about the 16 team, which is on the table, right? As a possibility, right, Ross?
It's under discussion. Correct. That would be 3 at large instead of 1
Just
at
go
large.
Arkansas State playoffs. Let them all in, man. When you get,
You finish top 3 of your 4-team division, you get in. That Mississippi had that too. Your top 4. Some divisions were 5 teams and 4.
Everybody, they're like 0-11 teams. Yeah. So like the kids have half quit. Yeah. They're like, I'm not playing another game. Oh, I got to go play Little Rock. Whatever. Oh, man, come on.
Lose 61-3.
Everybody gets in. Participation trophy. Everyone gets their bonus.
So, like 16 teams, not a good idea. First of all, there's no...
Playing
when are
them
you playing them?
Real. That's the biggest hurdle is when to play them. Already it's clogged, right?
Yeah.
They got a good thing
that
going
one seems
here.
Like a stretch.
They got a good thing going here, so of course they're going to hate it.
I'm going to guess that the 16-team version would be the compromise to get this done with the Big 12 and ACC, because theoretically it would leave them more at 2 at larges for them possibly to get a 3rd or 4th team in. I'm guessing this is put down the line, maybe a compromise with them. Or you know what? I mean, it would surprise me. It would shock me if this happens, but maybe they stay at 12 in some kind of AQ format, but that seems that the ship has sailed on that.
I think, go ahead.
Well, first of all, the SEC and Big Ten don't seem all that interested in compromising. Like they've already wrested the most of the money and the control over the format. It's like, well, yeah, okay, we'll consult. We'll keep them apprised. We'll keep you in the loop, Jim. Hey, Brett, yeah, we'll let you know. Here's what you need to know. We get the 4, you get 2, and you better
We're all getting drunk on Bourbon Street. Like, come on, that's our meeting.
Yeah.
All right. It's hurricanes for everyone, and tell the other guys to pound sand. That's what we're going to do. Like, it's a great meeting.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. I had another point, and I can't remember.
All right, let's take a break and think about it. Pat Forde has remembered his thought.
I thought of my other point. Sorry, the rants are just flowing so fast tonight that sometimes I'm losing track of them. But here's a way you could solve the issue if you've added a 9th SEC game, right? And you've added a 10th game in a scheduling agreement against the Big Ten. But you still want home games and you still want to win some games. So guess what you could do if you're South Carolina, Florida, and Kentucky is tell your ancient rival that your fans love playing against, screw off. We're not playing you anymore. And then you further hurt the strength of schedule. Yeah,
Georgia Tech, South Carolina, Clemson, Kentucky, Louisville. So this is a great point. And I envision that this issue is one of the biggest issues that would be debated and is being debated within the SEC when you go to a 9th conference game, then have the one game against the Big Ten. Because the idea is most SEC schools who don't play that ACC rivalry at the end of the year will go 9 plus the one Big Ten plus 2 G5 or FCS games. But if you're Clemson, if you're South Carolina, if you're Florida, you can't get rid of these games. And from everybody I talked to at those places and just around the league, those games, I don't think you can get rid of politically in the state, get rid of those games. So those schools would play 9 plus 1 Big Ten plus their ACC rival plus 1 FCS or G5 is probably what would end up happening, which is an unbalanced schedule for sure.
Yep. And Lord,
some of them already do it. I mean, Georgia played Clemson and Georgia Tech. Florida played Miami and Florida State. Yep. They already do it. It's not the worst thing.
Yeah, they do
you
do
can't
it.
I mean, honestly, if you're sitting there saying, he got a great idea, we're going to get rid of the Clemson-South Carolina game, and we're going to make sure that South Carolina gets to play a home and home with Minnesota. I mean, yeah, awesome. Great times. I mean, like what in Minnesota?
You can't politically. You
or
can't,
Iowa.
Can't
In Iowa, you no longer get to play Iowa State. We're getting rid of the Cyhawks.
That's right.
But you get good news. You'll play a mid-level SEC team at home and home.
You play.
What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Where's the problem? Where is the problem? Don't tell me you ain't got money paying defensive coordinators $2.5 million a year. Where's the money?
That's that's again what this comes back. Well, the House settlement, the House settlement. Yeah, you're talking about that, and you're paying your coaches out the ass more than ever. Ryan Day's new contract, Jim Knowles' new contract, DJ Durkin's new contract, Matt Patricia. Don't cry poverty and don't say, well, we got to go do these things to scrounge up some more money.
Well, a reminder too, and as I wrote in that story, the revenue distribution, right, as part of the memorandum and the agreement they signed last spring, the SEC and Big Ten got a total of 58% of the future revenue distribution. So each school's CFP distribution starting in 26 will go from $6 million to $20 to $23 million, depending on the school and the conference.
So is this just going to happen? They're just going to do it?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I think that
lots
this
of ADs
will be probably
and
the main
commissioners
topic
listen to
on
this
Wednesday.
podcast.
Do they now?
We do know that
some even admit it.
Listen. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Wednesday, Dan will be broadcasting from somewhere inside a New Orleans hotel while they're meeting, maybe in the background. Maybe they'll let us in. You think they'll let us in? We just do the pod live from the room?
I just don't get the concept. Like they settle on problems that don't exist. They create problems in their mind, and then they settle on them, and then they try to solve the problem. This is a solution in search of a problem. If you got a good reason, I'm not going to be opposed to more football, right? Like I'm never really going to be opposed to that. But if you're talking about devaluing the regular season, this will do it. I once proposed a 16-team playoff, and they hired Washington lobbyist and PR firm to attack me because it was so radical. This wasn't even nearly as crazy as this thing. That was a decade and a half ago. Like, they went bananas on that. Oh, my Lord, you're going to ruin the regular season. At no time did I contemplate, let's give a conference play-in game for the 6th place team. That was beyond my, this is not, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Let's briefly spend a minute on maybe the 30,000 foot view of really why this is happening.
Well, that's what we've been asking you. What is it? Is there a secret?
And well, I mean, the broader view
we're trying to
is you've got two conferences that have basically cornered the market in the biggest brands outside of maybe one or two, the biggest brands in college football. And at a time they're about to pay 20 up to probably within 5 years, $28 million directly to athletes. They are trying to find any way they can to not just gain access, but probably more importantly, to make money. And now it's just this whole thing has evolved into a quote, right, amateur college athletic world, and is going to be a business, directly a business where they say, right, they have to make business decisions to get more money, to pay the athletes, yada, yada. And that's really the bottom line of what's happening. In order for the SEC to play the ninth, to agree as a league, because they've been split now for a couple of years on this issue of a ninth game. And they've been split for two reasons. One, the bottom part of the league, but also some in the top half of the league don't want to risk losing another game, right? So they don't want to play 9 games because they don't want to risk losing another game and then that impacting their path to the playoff and getting teams in the playoff. So when you have guaranteed spots, they're more amenable to agreeing to a 9th game, and then they're more amenable to striking this Big Ten agreement. Again, you stack these things up, and you're exceeding $100 million in new revenue every year, probably
for just the SEC.
No, the SEC would be the 9th game would be like a separate
for both leagues.
Yeah,
so combine both leagues.
If you combine most of that in the SEC because of the 9th game, most of that probably in the SEC because of the 9th game.
Say $60 million of that for the SEC and $40 million for the Big Ten, roughly.
Maybe, all
right.
So you know what? There's 18 teams.
That's
$3 million a year.
That's probably at minimum because the playing games.
That's a defensive coordinator.
And not even counting the playing games in that.
Per school, $3 million. $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing this for.
They would say that's tell me what $3 million more than we had, Dan.
Okay, here it is. Somebody who's listening that is in power, please call me and tell me what the real thing is. Because if you people are doing this for these stupid reasons, you're bigger idiots than I usually call people. Like, I don't get it. There's nothing here. There's got to be a trick. You've got to have some secret plan where you're going to get world domination, not, hey, we made $2.8 million more. Guess what? I think that defensive coordinator that sucks, we get to fire him 1 year quicker. Thanks for blowing up the sport. What?
That's in addition to this new CFP money.
They're running garbage numbers at you, Ross. They're trying to. They're throwing tricks out. It's like this tax cut will save. Next thing you know, you're $100 trillion in debt. Like what?
I think the world of domination, I suspect, is still the.
Well, what do you think it is, Dan?
I don't know.
If that's not this, well, there's got to be a reason, right? This is the reason. Whether or not you think it's stupid or not, I think it's the reason.
They like doing stuff.
But it's also not. While the money is important, it's still that guaranteed access into the playoff to try to get your team a championship.
Look, I think that this is your gradual creeping. Take more advantage until the other conferences are so marginalized. Nobody even cares anymore if you break away.
Do you think they have a long play like that?
Here's what I know.
I don't think here's what I know
is every time the Big Ten and the SEC get together to talk about how we're going to administer the House settlement, we end up having this instead. They talk, well, we're trying to fix the issues in college sports. No, they get together to try to figure out how to carve up the pie to a greater advantage for themselves. That was when they started talking last year. Remember when they had their issues consortium or whatever? That was the warning signal there. No. This is not any sort of sign that we're trying to break away or anything like that. Every single step since then has been a further enhancement of their power and influence.
Yeah.
Eventually, they want to run Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina and Oklahoma State and Arizona State and BYU and Texas Tech off the reservation. They're going to go do their own thing.
Remember, they threatened to do it last spring.
They did,
and they were
They
public about it. I mean, Greg Sankey and Tony Pacitti both told me for a story in April that they did suggest that they would leave if they didn't get the revenue distribution format they wanted, and they got it. They got 29%
Jim Delaney
each.
said the Big Ten was going to go Division III.
If they paid players.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember
They were going to pack it up and play Division III
Good
football.
old days, Dan.
Mount Union versus Ohio State. Let's see. Get Nick Sirianni back there to coach the Mount Union. I don't know. I don't like, is this even better? If you're a Big Ten fan, are you happier about this? Because you can feel like if I get fourth, I'm automatically in, opposed to if I get fourth, I'm almost certainly in.
If I'm a brand, if I'm not a big brand in those leagues, I'm happy about this. I talked to enough people that are on the bottom of those two leagues resource-wise, and they'll tell you, again, they will bring up the subjectivity of the selection committee and looking at brands and all that stuff, and they just want to have it on the field done, and they feel like they're going to get a better opportunity in this format.
Yeah.
Yes, because the selection committee was so dazzled by brands this last year that they took Indiana over Alabama
and SMU
as well.
What?
Yeah, SMU too.
Yeah, that brand bias was huge with this committee. So bad. Just real problem.
I guess.
I like what you're saying though, Ross. I get like not from. I think that's ludicrous. But if you are,
I
Illinois,
can understand that thinking.
Y'all know where I graduated from. Right?
Yeah,
but one of the lower resourced in the SEC. Yeah. As I'm taking my hat off here, putting the fan hat on, I am thrilled. If Mississippi State finishes 6th in the standings, they get a shot to make the playoff, as opposed to relying on a committee and maybe having to win 10 games.
Yeah, no, you get a good schedule. You put together a good team. You get up to 6th. You win one game and you're in. I can totally understand why the Minnesotas and Purdue's and Illinois would say, yeah, we like it. I don't like it at all.
I mean, all you do is get 6th.
Yeah.
You're gonna hang a banner for that.
Be 8-4 at 6. 9-3, 8-4.
Tied for 6th in the Big Ten 2024, but won a tiebreaker.
I told these people
we need to figure this tiebreaker out, Pat. The one you ran through earlier. We got to go through the SEC tiebreakers to figure out who would have been the SEC 6th or 5th seed or whatever it was.
Yeah, the 6-way tie for 4th or whatever.
For 4th seed, yeah.
1, 2, yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty wild.
Oh my God.
All right, I don't know,
Dan. It's not finalized yet, but. Everybody does seem to be moving that direction. Ken, here's a big question, and this is one a non-SEC
better
Big Ten.
reason. Somebody come up with a better reason, please. Just don't insult my intelligence.
I'll say something.
I'm not very intelligent, so there shouldn't.
That a person outside of the SEC and Big Ten mentioned to me that could potentially slow this momentum down for this format. And that is ESPN. And it's ESPN taking a stand, potentially. And as I wrote in that story, ESPN executives have told people high up in the CFP that they are a little apprehensive of a format with so many auto bids to specific conferences. And quote, and this is a quote of not an ESPN executive, but somebody in college athletics who's talked to ESPN about this, quote, you alienate part of the country with this format.
Damn right. And you know what? I'm rooting for ESPN, of all things, the worldwide leader, to be the conscience of the sport here.
Yeah, they'll have a smaller percent of the field than they used to. There's a greater percentage of teams that are now getting in from the other conferences. So this is the part that baffles me. Again, if you get most years, I think you will get 8 teams from the SEC and the Big Ten. We needed all hell to break loose last year for Clemson to get in. Most years to get the second at-large bid and cause Alabama basically to be out. You get 2/3. Now you're going to get 57.1%. Maybe if Notre Dame isn't any good that year, it's great for Notre Dame, by the way. You get
Notre Dame has the protection, in the memorandum where there are some protections in the memorandum for those who don't. There's a lot of questions already with the future and in the G5 having their spot removed. That can't happen. According to the memorandum, the 5 highest ranked conference champions get automatic bids. That assures at least one spot every year for the G5. The other big protection is that Notre Dame, if it finishes ranked inside however big the field is, top 14, top 12, top 16, it automatically gets an at-large berth into the field. And now, potentially with the remade conference championship games, Notre Dame could potentially get one of those 2 buys as well.
Okay, so if it goes absolute dream scenario, we got our 4 automatic bids from the Big Ten, the 4 automatic bids from the SEC, and the committee is so overwhelmed. Notre Dame doesn't have a great season. Nobody else steps up, and the next best team is from the SEC, and they get a 5th team in. Holy cow, this is great. They got 9 of the 14. That's 64%. It's still below the percentage-wise. So I don't think you're alienating the rest of the country. You're inviting more of them in. You're inviting more of them in, almost guaranteed.
Well, I think starting a season with 2 leagues having more of chance of their teams, right? That's the big. And Jim Phillips has mentioned that. He said he has a public comment. I don't remember exactly what it was to me in December, but it was when you start the season, it should be wide open, right?
Right.
It should be wide open when you start the season. You shouldn't be designating participants before the season even begins. You should reward teams, I think he said, after the season instead of before the season. You reward conferences after the season, depending on play, not before. So, hey, this is going to be an interesting fight in the room. And boy, there have been some fights in the room the last 3 years, going back to January 2022, and they were trying to approve the 12-team playoff, and the alliance stood in the way. That was the first real big fight. Then last spring, they had the revenue distribution, and then now they're going to have this fight.
Yes, the 2022 fight is like Greg Sankey it's the greatest atrocity that's ever happened. He will never, ever let go of it.
Holding on tight,
using that
for sure.
as a cudgel to beat everyone else about the head and shoulders ever since.
Yeah, the quote there from Sankey, this was to Yahoo Sports last April, about the alliance standing in the way of, causing an 18-month delay in approving the 12-team playoff. When we ended the set of meetings in January 2022 without a decision, I was clear. If you are going to walk away from this opportunity, we are going to reevaluate our position on format, revenue sharing, and governance. And I contacted Greg Sankey earlier this week for comments on the CFP, these concepts that we've been discussing. He declined comment, but reverted me back to that quote.
Yeah, alliance was stupid.
It was a
nobody
very,
howled
very
more
bad
about
idea.
that thing to me. You idiots, take the old playoff they gave them. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They could have had this all set. They didn't.
It could have been set that spring. It could have been set. The revenue could have been set. The format could have been set.
You know how much money they pay consultants and they end up with this? You know how much money this guys are the worst consultants. Just call me. I'm free. This pod's free. All right, we'll be right back after this. All right, I got to get to one thing before we get out of here because this has been we're just angry. We're just angry.
Oof.
Pat's basement flooded.
Glad we got this out of the way before I'm in the hotel on Wednesday taping.
Oh, sure. Stuart, Florida. SEC. Well, that could be ACC country.
Florida, man.
Treasure Coast.
Yep.
Stuart. So this is an old story, but it came back up. They posted this picture of a police car. Well, I'll read the story of the paper. They did a great job. There was a fist fight at a involving a crowd at a local burger joint in Stuart, and 3 adults and 2 juveniles were all arrested. So that's and that led to this headline: Stuart police arrest 5 guys. 5 guys.
Nice. Perfect.
That makes for a happy headline writer. You're handed that content.
the Stewart police put on Facebook, can you guess how many guys were arrested at this location on Wednesday? And they had a police car in front of the 5 guys. Pat, you're a fan of cheeky Facebook posts by police departments. They have a sense of humor also.
Absolutely. You're allowed to. It's fine. Just don't be like cracking jokes when people are dead. But when you're making arrests after a fight at 5 guys, I'm totally in favor. Good job, police department. Good job for the Stewart headline writers.
Treasure Coast Palm. That's what it's
okay.
Called. They said the cause of the fight was unknown. Do we have any guesses on what would cause it?
Peanuts.
Peanuts.
The
right?
peanuts.
Had to be.
Yeah.
Nut allergy.
Somebody
throw a guy on the
eating
floor.
too much of them, or you had too many on the floor, or throwing them at each other. Something. The peanut. I mean, look, that's a projectile, and there's too many available there.
Yeah.
You're asking for trouble.
Yeah, I think it's a surprise that isn't more fights over there. The old 5 guys. Anyway, I don't know. That's all I got. Pat, go clean your basement, okay?
I'm telling you what, this is too big a job for me. Yeah,
a lot of flooding
really
in Kentucky and Virginia and Tennessee, and our thoughts are with everybody that got walloped. Some of the videos, I think it's going to be a lot worse. I only saw some of them tonight. It'll be worse on Monday, and even into North Carolina, I think, and that area does not need more.
No.
Yeah, it sucks. Winter flood. Oh, it's bad enough in the summer, at least. Yeah.
Winter sewage flood.
Sewage flood.
No.
How much rain did you get?
I don't know. I was gone, and everybody else in the family was gone too. They were in Florida. I was in Alabama, so it festered for a full day here.
Oh, good.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the house reeks. I am relocating to a hotel as soon as we're done.
Oh, you did the pod in the house though.
Well, I was trying to decide. Yeah, I was like, do I have time to get to the hotel and set up? Anyway, whatever.
Well, thank you
for the dedication.
Well, no
Pat.
wonder you're pissed off, yelling and screaming all episode.
I came in fuming.
You're inhaling filth, huh?
Yes.
Well, you're inhaling filth physically, and apparently also inhaling filth from these new ideas here that we talked about.
People are shoveling.
What a pod. Dan, you asked us to bring it this pod, I think.
Before the
pod, you're like, we need to bring it.
Our last pod was weak. And
I think it's been brought.
I don't know if it's any better, but one topic and a bad 5 guy joke that's 5 years old. Get what you pay for. We're free. Talk to you later.